The fire's low, the hour's late, and another page from the archives awaits. Tonight, we follow a quiet Ravenclaw named Elara, who stumbles upon something peculiar beneath the frozen surface of the Black Lake. Prints that mirror her steps exactly, but from beneath the ice. No danger, no chase, just a soft mystery unfolding in silence, one careful footstep at a time. Settle in, let the snow fall quietly outside, and if you enjoy these nightly wonders, don't forget to give the archive a little nudge with a like or a subscribe. It keeps the candles burning. Let's begin. The Tracks Beneath the Ice. Elara Wynn, third-year Ravenclaw, had never minded the cold. The rest of the castle clung to fireplaces and study tables as dusk crept in, but she preferred the shoreline. The snow along the Black Lake was clean and undisturbed, except for her own boot prints, trailing back to the castle like thread on a loom. Each step gave a faint crunch, crisp and solitary. She tugged her cloak tighter and stepped closer to the edge. A sheet of ice had settled over the lake since morning, thin, unclouded, still. It caught the fading light like a stretched pane of glass. Then she saw them. Just beneath the ice, half shadowed by frost and reflection, another set of prints. Smaller, clawed, almost bird-like, followed the exact arc of her own. Not above the ice, but beneath it. A line of tracks locked into the frozen shallows, mimicking her path from the moment she'd arrived. She knelt, breath fogging the surface. The prints curved gently, no more than a pace away from where she stood, as if the thing that made them had walked beside her, unseen. Elara reached out, palm hovering above the ice. No warmth passed through, only the sensation that something had been here. She glanced back. Her own trail was visible in the snow, but no second set. Nothing had followed her up the hill or onto the path. The tracks existed only under the ice, beginning when hers did, ending where hers ended. A hush settled around her, heavier than before. She stayed crouched a moment longer, the lake stretching quiet into the dark. There was no urgency, no sign of threat. Just the strange, impossible idea that something had mirrored her exactly, right at the edge where ice meets air. She thought briefly of a folk tale her grandmother once told her, the story of a frost-laced spirit that mimicked lonely travelers, never seen, only sensed. Elara hadn't believed it then, but standing here, breath clouding the stillness, she wondered if some stories didn't ask for belief so much as attention. Elara stood, brushing frost from her knees. She didn't believe in coincidence. Tomorrow, she would come earlier and bring chalk and a book on magical waterfowl, just in case. Without a backward glance, she turned toward the castle, her footsteps now feeling slightly less alone. Elara returned to the lake the next afternoon, her cloak tugged close against the wind, and a small notebook tucked beneath her arm. The snow had deepened overnight, but the ice still held, clear and firm where the wind had swept it bare. As she brushed aside the frost near where she'd stood yesterday, her breath caught. A new set of prints had appeared. They branched away from the original trail, curving toward the lake's center, lighter, more widely spaced, with a hesitation in their arc. The final mark pressed deeper, as if the creature had stopped for a moment before vanishing into the darker ice. Elara dropped to her knees and unspooled the measuring tape. 23 centimeters, she whispered, glancing at the print's outline, smaller than a skate. She recorded the number in her notebook and circled it. Then she saw it, just beside the last visible print, resting in a shallow dip in the frost. A feather, iridescent, pale gray with faint rings of silver along the edge. Unlike any bird she recognized from her Care of Magical Creatures textbook, it hadn't blown in. There was no breeze, and it lay too deliberately placed, perfectly centered, as if set down with care. She didn't touch it. Instead, she sat back and traced the trail with her eyes, both hers and its. The branching pattern felt different now, less like tracking and more like conversation, a response. She sketched quietly in the margin of her notes, not a diagram, but something looser, curves, lines, the shape of the moment. Her quill tip slowed as she realized the symmetry. 2 sets of steps, side by side, parting only when one no longer needed to follow. The lake, she realized, was not just a mirror. It was a page, one they were writing together. She looked out across the lake, where the ice thickened and the surface turned cloudy. The trees beyond stood still, dark against the snow. Then, just beneath the nearest ripple in the ice, something shifted. Not a shadow, just a slow bloom of motion, like a current stirred by breath. Elara stilled, watching as the ripple passed quietly beneath the glassy surface and faded. No fear stirred in her chest, only certainty. She was not alone here, and she wasn't meant to be afraid. She reached for the feather, hesitated, then gently tucked it into her notebook. Tomorrow, she would come without her tools. No tape, no chalk, no need to measure, just herself and the space to listen. Elara came before supper, empty-handed. She left her notebook, tape, and quill on her dormitory desk, slipping only her hands into deep pockets as she crossed the snow-dusted lawns toward the Black Lake. She stopped at yesterday's spot, boots settling in the familiar crunch. The ice lay flawless and still, gray sky mirrored in its surface. She said nothing, only breathed, letting the hush of winter surround her. Minutes passed. A hawk cried far off, then quiet returned. Gently, she drew the silver-ringed feather from her pocket and laid it on the ice. It felt right to give something back. Frost hissed beneath the plume, then stilled. Elara straightened and waited, pulse steady. A faint line etched itself beneath the surface, one print, then another, branching from the place where the feather rested. The clawed marks moved in a slow arc that matched the shape of her standing feet, stopping exactly opposite her toes, as though the unseen creature had stepped forward to meet her. For a moment, Elara imagined what it might look like, not fully, only in impressions, the weight of its feet, the precision of its path, the patience. A being that did not speak in words or warnings, but in echoes, gifts, and mirrored presence. Elara's breath misted. She raised a gloved hand in greeting, keeping still. Beneath the ice, a final impression appeared. A palm-shaped patch where frost melted clear for a heartbeat before refreezing, mirroring her gesture. No more prints followed. The lake settled again, the feather now half frozen into the glaze. Elara smiled, small, sure, and whispered, "Thank you." Nothing answered aloud, yet a quiet warmth filled the cold air. Enough. She turned toward the castle. Behind her, the feather remained sealed inside the ice, a single soft marker between two worlds. As she reached the rise, the wind picked up, carrying with it the faintest shimmer of sound, like water stirred beneath glass. Elara didn't look back. Some things, she knew now, didn't need watching to be believed. Elara walked back up the snowy rise, content in the silent understanding that something beneath the lake had wanted to be known, and, gently, she had listened.